Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Book Creator Monthly Series. Today's webinar is Writing in Response to Reading with Book Creator. My name is Monica Burns. I'm an Apple Distinguished Educator, EdTech and Curriculum Consultant, and very proud Book Creator Ambassador. I'd love for you right now, if you're here joining us live, to go ahead to the question box in the GoToWebinar panel and go ahead and say hello, share where you're from. You're more than welcome to share your position or your role in education, and we'll get started in just a minute while I go through and give some shout outs here. We have Corey from Alberta with us tonight. Welcome, Corey. We have Kathy from Wisconsin, Cheryl from Atlanta, Georgia, Dawn in California, Kathy, another Kathy from Wisconsin. Welcome. Feel free to go to that question box in your GoToWebinar panel if you want to say hello. Hi, Ellen from Pennsylvania. As we're moving through tonight, and I, push you to post questions or have, if you have any questions to share them, you're going to go ahead and put them in the question box in GoToWebinar. And if your control panel disappears for any reason, you can always hit that orange arrow and that'll open it back up for you as well. So my name is Monica Burns. I'm really excited to be with you here today for this special webinar with Book Creator and Writing in Response to Reading with Book Creator. I'm going to be doing double duty today as host and facilitator to make sure everything's going smoothly. So you'll notice that I have my screen open pretty large with the slide deck on the side so that I can manage the GoToWebinar control panel at the same time. So if you have any questions, you're going to go ahead and put them in there for us. So in order to get started, I'd love to learn a little bit about you and your background. I'm going to launch a poll that's going to take over your screen. And you can choose more than one answer here. So what grade levels do you teach or do you support? And you can choose one or more of the following before you hit submit. It'll help us give a picture of what our fellow attendees are working with when we give examples and all those things. So it looks like about 3/4 of you have your votes in already. Over 90% of you work in 3-5. We have 55% in K2, about a quarter in 6-8, and a few, just about a tenth of us in high school in 9-12. And remember, those percentages shouldn't necessarily add up to 100 since we're able to choose more than one. Let's go ahead and just one more question. How familiar are you with Book Creator? Are you a pro? Have you used it a few times, or is this something that is brand new? Got almost half of your votes in. Waiting on a handful more. All right, it looks like about 2/3 of us have used Book Creator a few times. A few of us are brand new, and it looks like about a quarter are a pro. So you know a lot of the basics of Book Creator. You've used it plenty before, so that's fantastic. So just to give you an idea of what we're going to go through tonight, we're going to share Book Creator specifically into the ways you can use it to write in response to reading. So if you're brand new to Book Creator and I'm talking about some buttons or features or just kind of going quickly over things, you can check out Book Creator's YouTube page, and there's all recordings. Just last week we did a Getting Started with Book Creator webinar. There's a 3-part series on there. So if at any point today you feel like you need that Book Creator refresher, you'll be able to find it there on YouTube. And so we're also recording this as well. So if you have to duck out a little early, or you want to share tonight's message with your staff, you're more than welcome to. We'll share that recording with you, and that'll be up in the Book Creator YouTube channel as well. So as I mentioned, tonight's webinar is part of our monthly book creator series. There's a few others that you'll find on that YouTube channel, and you can also access them on Book Creator's website where you went to sign up for this series. So tonight we're talking about writing in response to reading with Book Creator. Next month we'll be looking at Book Creator for informational writing in all subject areas. So really thinking about that nonfiction creation and informational writing in different subject areas. And then November, we'll be rounding out our series with publishing for authentic audiences, really setting a purpose for students and the ways in which they are creating content with Book Creator. So tonight's focus is going to be on writing in response to reading with Book Creator. We'll talk about some best practices for using this awesome creation tool, for writing about reading, some expectations you might want to set or think about for your students, as well as journal ideas and ways to incorporate this into something that's happening all the time in your classroom. So I'm going to encourage you today, if you don't have it right next to you, to just grab your iPad with a Book Creator on it, because we're going to be using Book Creator. I'm going to encourage you to try out a few different things as we're going through this evening together. And of course, there's the question box on the GoToWebinar control panel. Question, I'll see it, and I'll pause a few different times over the course of our 40 minutes or so together to go through these pieces. So Book Creator, if you're totally new to this awesome tool, is an open-ended creation tool. It lets you create and publish books, really to have a customizable experience. So this isn't the sort of app where you open it up and it tells you what to do. It gives kids a space to create. And what that means is it lends itself to so many different types of activities. Really amazing tasks that you can have students use this tool for. You're really in the director's chair for facilitating what those learning experiences are going to look like, even though there's plenty of room for your kids to be creative. And so Book Creator is available on different tablet devices. You can get it in the Google Play Store as well as for Windows devices. We'll be showing iPad screenshots tonight and talking about some iPad specific features. If you are an iPad user, and you're watching this live with us this middle of September, the next few days, Book Creator is available on iPads half price. That includes the volume purchasing. So if you're looking to purchase these apps for your school, this is the time to do it, as well as for your own device. Of course, if you're on your iPad and you're in the App Store, you probably already noticed there's a free version of Book Creator, which is awesome for getting started and doing what we're doing together tonight. But it's also it also limits you to just one book. So you may kind of get your wheels spinning and have tons of ideas for using Book Creator. So you'll probably want to get that full version that just gives you more flexibility. So when we're talking about our tool, our focus tool, Book Creator tonight, such a powerful creation tool, just some best practices to think about over the course of the webinar. When we are doing anything, when it comes to having students make and create, especially when it comes to something that you might want to have a really clear vision for, like having students write in response to reading, you'll want to make sure that there are clear expectations for your students. Have you modeled for them what it is you want them to do? Have you practiced this workflow of how students are going to read and pause and respond, and what kind of apps they might integrate into those pieces? Have you thought about how to manage or what differentiation will look like when you provide options? All things to think about as you go through today. So what I want you to do right now is in that question box on the GoToWebinar panel, I want you to just maybe a sentence, maybe a few words. How are your students currently responding to reading in your classroom? What does that look like? What are they expected to do or to write or to say when they finish a book or they listen to a read aloud? What is it that you're looking for students to do when they respond to reading? Go ahead and type that into the question box on the GoToWebinar panel. Christy shared that her students write in journals as they respond to reading. Erin shared that her students make connections with the text, so that's part of what they're expected to do with their reading responses. Corey shared that sometimes students are blogging about what they've read, recording buddy questions about something they've read. Dawn talks about how she sees verbal responses, those kind of one-on-one, what is it that you read, and those think pair shares, which are so great. Joanna shared about how it might be used to post responses to reading when students are doing group reads. So awesome things here as well. And so when people submit questions, only I'll be able to see them. And so that's why I'm kind of doing the shout out there, which also gives you a space to ask a question. And that way, you know, you can feel good about putting that in there as well. So let's go ahead and jump right in. When you are responding to reading with Book Creator, students can do so many different things. They can take their traditional text responses and put them onto a digital device. So if you had students writing a paragraph response, if you had them, you know, writing within a particular format, those kind of 5-finger retell or something, they of course can do text responses to their reading in Book Creator. Students can annotate passages, so we'll talk about snapping a picture and having students annotate a passage. Students can also reflect really easily on what they read through video and audio reflections. It's fantastic for your kids who might be listening to you read a book aloud and you want them to respond to it. For your students who just quickly are going to give you a picture, you know, a window into their thinking. For your kids, maybe your English language learners who are conversationally proficient but are working on their sentence structure and getting their thoughts into writing in the language you're instructing in. Those are all options when it comes to using the multimedia tools. And then of course there's different app integrations where kids can create a reflection, create a response in another app. We've talked about app smashing and Book Creator webinars in the past, and bring that into a journal, bring that into a culminating project as well. So if you haven't been on Book Creator website recently, you may not have known that they really revamped the whole platform, including lots and lots of case studies. So stories of teachers using this tool, this awesome creation tool, for lots of different reasons. And so if you go onto their site, you'll find that there are great stories, including a story by the two techie teachers about digital interactive notebooks with Book Creator, where kids are collecting their thoughts using templates. Really awesome story, worth checking out if you go to their blog for some inspiration. So when we're specifically talking now about responding to reading, we're going to start off by thinking about daily responses, those everyday reflections students might do in their reading. Then we'll talk a little bit about what you can use Book Creator for culminating projects, as well as collaborative projects where everyone are working together. So for daily reflections, you might have students every day opening a new page in a reading journal and adding their thinking about reading. So this could include you creating a clear template, kind of like if they had a black and white reading journal where they put in their name and their date and how many pages they read every day. So you might have a template or clear format for that. You may give students different ways, some different choices for responding to what it is that they've read, and you might really strategically differentiate what's happening on different student screens as well. So if you open up Book Creator, you know that you can create multiple books when you have that full version of Book Creator. So if your kids are using the same iPad every day, if you're in that one-to-one environment, you might have them create a reading journal that they come back to regularly. So they just tap and they open up their Book Creator reading journal whenever they are using their device during reading time. If you are sharing devices, so your kids are sharing, say, iPads, they use them every once in a while, you might have your grade three devices in a cart somewhere. You might have kids always use the same iPad. They're always using iPad number 7. And when they go to Bookreader, they can open up their reading journal and put in a response once a week. Really just depends on the workflow. If you're using Apple Classroom, you kind of can pick it up where you left off no matter what device you're using. So all things to think about in terms of workflow management. But the idea here is students have created a reading journal. Love grabbing images, and you can see from photos for class is one I love to just app smash, if you will, with Bookreader, because it puts all the citations for images. But you might have kids take a selfie and put it on the cover of their reading journal, one of those beginning to use the iPad activities. And so once they're in there, they can add anything they want to the page. So that plus sign that you see in the upper right-hand corner of the iPad screenshot, this lets them add anything they want to the page. And so, of course, you could add photos and use the camera tool, but the pen tool is really neat for getting kids kind of shifting in their traditional to digital responses to reading. The pen tool opens up a drawing space. So you can have students maybe write the date on the page for the day that they are going to log in their reading. What I've done here with the pen tool is I just wrote the date nice and big on the screen, because as soon as I hit that blue done button and I go back to my page, it makes my date an item, and I can pull those blue dots on the edges and move it and shrink it. So that's one of my favorite tricks with the draw tools. It doesn't matter how big you write, you can use your whole iPad screen, and then you can shrink your writing to one area of the page. This is great for younger students who might want to write instead of type, and then they can shut their writing and put it onto one side of the page. So if this is your student's reading journal, they might have their date on that page. Then they go back up here and they're ready to write a text response. So if they hit the plus sign and choose text, your text box will pop up automatically. And you'll notice here, it does give me the option to do bold, italic, and underline, but I'm not worried about my font or anything just yet. So I can go ahead and type in a summary. I can type in a connection. I can type in a response to any prompt that a teacher has given. So today I read the book Old Penn Station by William Lowe. It describes how a train station in New York City used to be beautiful, but no one took care of it. So you might have students, you might ask them for a quick summary. You might always have them do that first, then, next, finally. Whatever your practice is, you can transition it here for daily responses. So as soon as children hit done, this is when their text goes on the page. They can take that text, they can move it around, and they can format it however they want on the page. In our Getting Started with Bookreader webinar, we talked a little bit more about this, where you can highlight your text and hit the inspector button to customize the size of the text, to customize the font type, the colors, all of that. And so you can do that here with the inspector button. Another option when you have your page is to add a video reflection. So in this case, you can have students right when they're using Bookreader press the plus sign and access the camera tool. When they open up the camera tool, it gives them the option to point that iPad with the kind of selfie direction, so it's facing them, which is perfect if they have the iPad up on their desk. So right within Bookreader, without even leaving, they can access the camera. And this lets them talk into their device. So you might have some students type out for you what book it is that they've read, describe what happens in the book, key details, whatever your focus might be. Other students might use the camera tool, and when they press play, they'll see themselves doing a recording, a reflection, whatever your prompt might be. You might have both of these things on the page, and your prompt to students might be, tell me what you've read and write a one-sentence summary, and then do a video that says something that you loved about this book. When you go back up to the plus sign, instead of accessing the media, which we've looked at already, the text, the draw tool, the camera, if you hit the shapes button, This gives you the opportunity to pick and choose different shapes. So you might have students rate a book that they've read, so they can add a star to their page down here, and maybe they add multiple stars to give it 4 stars. Maybe they change the size or the shape of it. But once they have that star on the page, then they can go ahead and back to the draw tool, put in their rating here on the page, and give that book a score. So what you see here right now could be what a daily journal entry looks like for your students. They draw the date on the corner, they write a few sentences, they record a video reflection, and they rate their book, all using the multimedia tools. So you might be thinking that this is really similar to what you have students do in their paper and pencil notebook, right? Just record their thinking, log their reading. The layer that Book Creator adds here is that you have multimedia components where students can use multimedia as part of their response and capture all of their responses into one place. So every day they would be hitting this next arrow button to add, to add, to add, and they would have this digital compilation full of their reading from the school year. So what I want you to do right now is to open up Book Creator, if it's not open already, and just open up to a page and add the title and author of a favorite book. And while you do that, I would love for you to add any questions, and I'm going to take a look at your questions. So open up Book Creator, add a title and author of your favorite book. Maybe you use the pen tool to draw with your finger, or maybe you type it in and play with the font. So Don asked how you'd be able to collect the daily reflections. So having students each do a page, definitely doable. You might have them submit it and share in Seesaw. I'll mention some. That's one of my favorite LMSs to use with Book Creator. So you might have them airdrop a page to you. We'll talk a little bit more about sharing when we kind of come to the end today, and I'll also point you in the direction of another option for that as well. And Corey, you are thinking right where we're headed with templates. We're going to talk about templates in just a minute so that students can complete something that looks just the way you want it to look with all those components. And you can push it out to them in a variety of ways so they can access it as well. So if you haven't already, go ahead and open up Book Creator, add that title and author, and keep those questions coming. So what you can also have students do is they can snap a picture from inside their book. So here's a picture I snapped with the iPad, right? Snapped right inside of the book using the camera tool. So earlier, the camera tool was used to grab a video reflection. Here we're snapping a picture of a book. And so when you open that up, and you do that within Book Creator, you get your image in the direction that you took it with your device. So you can spin it once it's highlighted with those blue, use your fingers to turn it in the right direction. And once that's there on your page, you can go back up to the Draw tool to annotate on top of it. So when I'm on the Draw tool here, I can choose any color, and you might have students color code this so they can circle a word, they can point to that word, and when they hit done, they come back out here, and they then have the option to add text. So your prompt for a reading response one day might be snap a picture of your book that has a word you don't know or a new word you learned today, and have students grab that word and explain to you what it means. So they can go ahead and hit the text tool here, and the text box pops up, and they can say what that word means. The word sandhogs describes the workers in the tunnels. I bet they spent a lot of time underground and it was dirty. So you can have students put in their text. When it pops back up to the screen, it'll default to whatever font you've been using, whatever font you used for the last one. And of course, when you change the font, you go up here to the inspector to do that. But you can pull these blue buttons in either direction and move the text anywhere that you want. So if it's highlighted in blue and you're thinking, I don't love the way that this is laid out, you can go ahead to that Eye Inspector button, change the size of the font, change the type of the font, even change the color if you want. So here I've done both. I made it a little bit smaller and I changed it to a simpler font. And then I can come and move it into place here so that the definition is there on the page. Additionally, you might have students record a response to something that they see or they come into contact with on the page. So they might add a sound here, and that's going to use the microphone on their device. So it will ask them the very first time, is it okay? Do you give permission to use the microphone? You might have seen that come up before. If it's not working for some reason, it's probably because whoever was using that iPad with Book Creator said, no, 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 you can't use the microphone. Just that instinct, like don't download type of reaction. If that's the case, you can always go to the settings on your device, go into privacy, and give it access to the microphone. So what will happen on your screen is you will have this red button, you tap it, and you can record your voice. Once you finish recording, you say yes, and it'll pop up here on your page. If you're thinking, oh, I don't know how it's going to record student voices in a noisy classroom, have the students tilt their iPad towards the microphone, have them go into a kind of a quiet area. It really just depends on how things are going in your classroom. And remember, I can go back up here to the draw tool, write my question that I recorded here, and then move that down and label the button. So whoever is looking at this journal can find that as well. So we're going to shift now to going into templates. So this first section, we looked at some ways that kids might just follow your responses. They might just listen and kind of choose from a list of ways to respond to reading or do something a little more flexible every day. If you want students to work off of a template, you have a couple different options. You could make templates in Keynote if you wanted to. You could also make templates in Book Creator. And when you make templates in something like Keynote, you would create that template, you would save it as an image, you might airdrop it or get it to everyone's device and however your workflow is, and then they would open it up by bringing it in from the photo tools from their album. If you are designing your template in Book Creator, you can share that page to them and they can duplicate it and open it up into their own as well. So here I am with my Add tool. I'm going to go back down to what we looked at before, which is our shapes. And I'm going to tap on that shapes button, and now I can add in shapes. I love using shapes for templates because it helps kids kind of put what you want, that information you're looking for, into different buckets. So if I have my title and author section here, my summary section here, and my question that I have here, this is all giving students a place to record information, right? They're going to put their title and author in the blue box, put their summary in the orange box, and put their question in the talk bubble. Once you make a page like this, you would go up here and hit the share button. I heard a fellow ADE recently call this the Share-O button because it has the arrow and it lets you share things. So you can go ahead and tap that. And what will happen here is you'll have a lot of options to share this to your students' devices. You might airdrop it to their devices so they have this page. You might push it out to them in Seesaw or connect it to shared Dropbox. Those are all things that really just depend on your school and your workflow. There's no one perfect answer for sharing because there's lots of ways that you can do it, and you might already have systems in place. Once kids open it up on their device, they can go ahead and hit that plus sign and add text. So maybe they are putting in their summary. In this book, the main character is Poppleton. He moves from the city to the country. Poppleton makes new friends. And so once they type in some text, then they can move that text and place it anywhere they want in the screen, including in the boxes that you've set up for them. One option that you have as well is to have them put record buttons with audio in any of these spots. So they can go ahead to that plus sign, grab the recording and record their voice. And that's a great option if they put it right here and to put into the questions that they have. That way you can press and you can hear their questions. I love having students record questions that they have as opposed to writing questions that they have, because I find that it's a more authentic way, especially when kids might have questions that they have trouble articulating. They're going to have a lot of an easier time doing that with a recording than they would if they were trying to get it down into sentence when they're kind of figuring out what it is that they don't know. So when you use templates like this, you really can set students up for success and make sure that it has everything you want. You might not have summary here. You might have a question that you want them to answer, or a prompt that you want them to respond to that's a little more specific. You might add here how many pages did you read today, or what page are you on, or put the date here. So it's really up to you what you'd like to do for that as well. So there's a great case study that talks about templates that you can find from Alicia Sheeby in the Book Creator website in their case studies in their school section. She makes these templates for kids to drag in information or videos in Keynote, which is another great way to do it. And then you can save it as an image and have kids just import the image. So it just depends on what workflow makes a little bit more sense for you. So in addition to these daily activities, you might have students working on a culminating project, something that they are going to be looking at over the course, working towards over the course of a literature circle, over the course of a book club, or any of those pieces. So this might be a report, it might be a recommendation, like a book trailer, or it could just be a reflection. So again, you can pull a picture onto the page. You can see I've already snapped a cover of Because of Winn-Dixie. Kids can write their title using the draw tool and place it on their screen. And if you want to give them a little bit more flexibility for, setting the tone, connecting it to their book, and that sort of thing, if you are not tapping on any of your items and just your page is available, you can hit the eye inspector and change the page color background right here. And what's neat about this is you can have students choose the paper background, which you saw for my reading journal example, or if they hit this more button, it lets them choose from all the colors, and any ones that they've used recently will automatically pop up down here. If you are doing a culminating project with your students, you might have them incorporate more text features like a table of contents where they're including a summary, a main character, an overview of main characters, identifying the conflict, the resolution, including a recommendation. And of course, you can set them up for templates here as well. You might have pages that you already set up for a book report that then you send to students, they open up, and they are able to add into as well. So before we talk a little bit more about annotations and responding to reading passages, I'd love for you to open up Book Creator, if you still have that next to you, and record a reflection. Use the audio tool or use the video tool just to talk for a few seconds about a favorite book. And while you do that, I will take a look at some questions that you have here, and you can keep those questions coming. Oh, Joanna, I'm so excited that you're getting more new ideas and that you're enjoying all the upgrades. I agree. It's been so exciting to see what's been coming down the pipeline. Corey, I see here that you have one-to-one Chromebooks. So Book Creator isn't available on Chromebooks. You might have kids using an iPad card or a tablet card if you have access to that every once in a while. They might be doing some digital reading on Chromebooks and then jumping into their iPads or devices to respond as well. So if you have questions, you can keep them coming through, but I want to make sure we get to all of our stuff today, so you can keep recording your reflection if you're playing around. keep putting in questions if you have them, but I'm going to move us through our piece here, our last piece here with using screenshots. So if you are on an iPad, I'm here at newsela.com. There's lots and lots of websites with short passages. Maybe you're accessing them on LearnZillion. Remember that you can, pull up things from lots of different places on the web. So Newsela is great. You can have kids pull up an informational reading passage, and this one's all about a particular type of lock monster. And so what you can have students do is once they're reading on their device in Safari, so maybe in their Safari browser, what you can do is you can open up the page, scroll to a part of the page that you're using as a reader, so directing kids to zoom in maybe on one paragraph, whatever is going to fit on their screen, and then they can take a screenshot. So they can press that home button and the power button and snap a screenshot, and that screenshot will automatically go into their photos. So if they go back into Book Reader, they leave Safari in their reading passage and they go back into Book Reader, they can go to their photos. And when they open up their photos, depending on their operating system, they might see an album automatically that sets them up with screenshots, but either way, it'll be the last picture in their camera roll of their most recent moments. When they grab that and import that picture, it'll automatically fill up the whole page since it's the same size as the iPad screen. Yet they can grab those blue dots on the corner and shrink it so that it fits into the space. Now you can do all sorts of layering here. So I've already tapped on the draw tool, and you can have students draw arrows and go to different parts. And that way, when they pick up the text tool, they can label each one. And so if you're going to have students label different parts of a passage, you'll want to have them make individual text boxes for them, so it'll be easier to move around. So they can go ahead and put the title next to their title arrow and move down the page that way by adding the author, the caption, whatever it is that you're focusing on. So similar to before, how students snapped a picture of the inside of a book and were able to annotate the page, here your kids are taking a screenshot of something they're reading in another app. In this case, it's on Safari, reading off of Newsela on the internet. And what they can do here, and they can bring in this image, and then they can annotate it, and of course they have that recording option too. So this is a great if you want students to respond to something that they've read, and have that recording button there as well to do it in a few different ways, especially if you want them to say make one page, and that way they can not worry about sneaking all their text on the page and part of their response. They can focus on whatever your learning objective might be for that day, like understanding nonfiction text features, and then they can record their response since it won't take up the whole screen. So what you have here is the option for students to grab just a page from what they're reading on digital devices, and bring it in. So of course they could snap a picture of their book, or they could take a screenshot of some material that they're reading digitally. So when you're having students respond to reading, you have lots of different options. You might have them use an iPad every day, and they are building off of their reading journal. You might have them use their device to do a long-term project, so a culminating project that really asks them to dive deep, provide text evidence. You might even have that table of contents so they can organize all of their analysis of a particular text. You might have a one-day activity like this, where your students don't use Book Reader every day because maybe you don't have devices every day in front of them, but they can do these one-off activities and make just a page. Now, what I shared with you before about having students make templates and share their creations is that they are able to also make one page that could go into a collaborative text. So what we've done in the past, in past webinars, is talked about how students can each make individual pages, and then teachers can take those pages and combine them. So what you could have students do if you're only using iPads every once in a while but want them to write in response to reading is you can have them each make a page. Maybe they each choose one article, like the article you see here, and they choose a different one and they each make a page. And then they can go to that share button and they can share that page with you and you can put it all together into one book as well. So having that as an opportunity for them to really work together and have all of their response in one place, or if they're using their own device more regularly, they can have that reading journal that they're responding to. So I want you to take a moment to think about some of the ideas I've shared with you today and how you could make this work in your own classroom, your own learning environment with the teachers that you support. So how do you plan on using Book Reader to have students respond to reading? Go ahead and type that in the question box, and while you do, I'll take a look at some of the questions that have come through since the last time we paused. Cheryl said that she is looking for some suggestions on places to have pictures and bring pictures into the creations, because some of them are blocked. Some services are blocked at her school. Well, Cheryl, I really love photosforclass.com. It's a really great search engine and it lets you, it's kid friendly. It doesn't mean that it's kid perfect. So there might be something that pops up just like Google Images, but for the most part, I've had a lot of success with it, and it will automatically tag with the Creative Commons citation, so you can feel good about having students use them. You can also have kids go onto Google Image Search and do advanced settings and find Creative Commons shareable images there. If you're having kids snap pictures from inside the book, from covers of books, from screenshots on the web, you want to make sure you have permission to use any of those before you say create a book that would be published to the iBookstore. But if you're downloading those Creative Commons pictures and they have the right licenses, you shouldn't have any trouble sharing those as well. Corey asked if students can print their journals or if it's strictly digital. Well, when students have their final product, they can share it as a PDF, so then it will be very easy to print. If you do have students share as a PDF, what that means is that they are going to not be able to tap the page and hear audio or video recording. So if you want that to be intact, you'd want to share it as a video or as an EPUB. So it could be accessed on other devices and all the media would be there. Erin said that she wants to have her students use Book Reader as a daily response journal. So you might have students, Erin, complete their page in Book Reader, and if you want them to share it with you every day and still have this like log that's running, you have a couple options. You might have them share a page with you through Seesaw, kind of share, as they're adding pages. Maybe they do this once a week. I think Seesaw is an awesome way for them to do it because you kind of have that back and forth with the workflow, and it works really well with Book Reader. You might, if they're not using audio, maybe they take a screenshot and airdrop it to kind of a shared folder. It's up to you. I love the idea of having a long running log, but then also having kids give you the ability to kind of check in on that as well. Kathy shared that she sees the potential for having students really work on reading responses in a differentiated environment where they might be using different aspects of this. I like how Dawn is also making that English language learner connection that I think is so important. So kids can respond using photos, capturing their voice as well. I like Kathy's connection to vocabulary and capturing vocabulary. When you're thinking writing in response to reading, there's just so many options of ways we expect students to write and respond as well. And Corey asked if the final products, when we share it as a video, could be uploaded to YouTube. And yes, you could definitely do that. And then you would have a link that could be shared with parents as well. I love how we're how we're looking at a couple different options. I see more teacher examples coming through. Janie asked if BookReader provides embed files for publishing to websites. Your best bet, Janie, is to save your book as a video, and then you can embed that video so when someone pulls it up, like on a student blog, it'll play automatically and they'll be able to access it there. You might want to save their EPUB if you wanted someone to download and view it on an iPad. Save it to like a cloud sharing one, and they can access the book and kind of download it from there too. So it is just about time for us to wrap up today. And I want to say thank you so much for taking some time out of your evening to think about how BookReader can really elevate your practice for having students write in response to reading. When your students are creating, I really encourage you to share your experiences with the hashtag BookReader. The BookReader hashtag is also used for Twitter chats that take place regularly, and so you can learn more about that on BookReader's website as well. We have 2 more monthly webinars scheduled for 2016. You'll want to visit BookReader's site to make sure you sign up for those. They're coming up in October, November. It'll be here before you know it. And of course, we have our Getting Started webinars. You can watch recording of past webinars as well if you visit BookReader's YouTube site. So thank you so much for joining us. If I didn't get a chance to answer your question, or you're watching this in the recording and you want to send questions my way, you can reach me, Monica@ClassTechTips.com. And of course, you can always head to BookReader.com for lots of inspiration on how to use this fantastic creation tool in really any subject area with any grade level. Thank you so much for joining, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.